Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Subtlety and how I've been playing it in 7.1.5. This video is not done from a competitive PvP perspective and mostly focuses on casual, more fun aspects of World of Warcraft PvP. Here's what you can expect to see in this video. I break the information down into 3 parts, which talks about how to build your character, how to properly execute the rotation and openers, and a general overview of the spec. Let's go ahead and get started with part 1, character build, honor talents, and artifact. Before you are the talents that I feel are mandatory for the build, let's talk about them from top to bottom. Subterfuge provides an increased duration on Shadow Dance and makes it easier to open from stealth. Vigor increases your maximum energy by 50, which is extremely noticeable when it comes to smoothing out your rotation. Prey on the Weak increases damage to stun targets by 10%. Premeditation gives you extra combo points on Shadow Strikes and Cheap Shot, which leads us to the 3 tiers that are up to choice. First one is Master of Subtlety, Weapon Master, or Gloomblade. Master of Subtlety is the most consistent damage bonus, but Weapon Master can be kind of funny when it procs. Gloomblade does do good damage, but is only of value to you when you're not dancing. It can be fun for long things like Battlegrounds. Making a choice between Soothing Darkness and Elusiveness is pretty simple as well. I take Soothing Darkness in any situation where I'm able to just get away and reset, and anytime that I have dedicated healing, I rely on Elusiveness to mitigate the incoming damage. And in the final row, we have Master of Shadows, Marked for Death, or Death from Above. Master of Shadows is the most consistent one here in this tree, I feel. When you enter Shadow Dance, you get that extra energy back, which allows you to use an ability. It definitely makes the spec feel smoother. But taking Marked for Death can be a good choice if you're in a battleground where you're quickly chaining from target to target and able to reset the cooldown on Marked for Death. And Death from Above can be just fun to use if you're trying to get a big crit. Outside of that, I feel like it's kind of clunky. Now let's spend some time talking about the honor talents. Now when it comes to these, the first 3 are definitely up to you, but I would suggest taking the Honorable Medallion, the Reinforced Armor talent, and whatever you'd like in the 3rd tier. Our final 3 choices we have Shadow's Caress, Cold Blood, and Thief's Bargain. Thief's Bargain reduces the cooldown of Vanish to 30 seconds and increases our damage by 20%, but we sacrifice 25% of our maximum HP to run this talent. When you combine this with Reinforced Armor and 34 traits in your artifact weapon, you should have 2.2 million HP, which is enough to get away with running Thief's Bargain in casual PvP. Now let's talk about the artifact weapon. At this point in the expansion with the catch-up system, it's relatively easy to max out your weapon at 34 points, and I highly suggest that you prioritize doing so. Getting your weapon to 34 will increase your stamina, making you have a lot more survivability with this build. Well, that sums up part 1. Let's move on to part 2, openers and playstyle. First thing we're going to do is take a look at an opener in full speed. Ideally, what you're trying to do is get as many 5-point eviscerates out as possible while chaining stuns to control your target. So let's take a look at this opener again with those 2 tips in mind. I open with Cheap Shot and then Gormaw's Bite. I Shadow Dance, then Eviscerate to make the best of deepening shadows. I then Shadow Strike and Cheap Shot right as that first Cheap Shot fades. I Eviscerate again, I proc some combo points with my Shadow technique and Cheap Shot right before the second one fades, and get another 5-point Eviscerate off, and we kill the Demon Hunter. I feel like one major mistake players have is that they feel there's a specific set rotation of buttons that they should be pressing. But in reality, what you're trying to do is utilize your abilities to manage your combo points to get as many Eviscerates as you can while stunning your target. Let's take a look at a longer clip here, and I'll talk a little bit more about my mindset while I'm going through a match. This is a 2v1, so it's going to be an interesting experience. I start by sapping the DK, and open up on the Demon Hunter. I go through the same opening rotation, where I'm trying to maintain control over my enemy with stuns, while DPSing. With my last set of combo points, I applied a Nightblade instead of a Rupture, because I'm planning to avoid them with a Vanish. I managed to vanish the stun there, and now I'm going to go back aggressive by popping my defensive CDs to avoid damage and killing the Demon Hunter. This build really strives in short encounters where I'm able to have high uptime on Shadow Dance and DPS into my target. You'll see here that when I try to engage on him with all of his CDs up and him being off stun DR, that I don't really get a whole lot done. I really have to fall back on my low CD Vanish to avoid him as much as possible. I apply a Nightblade before I get away, because the damage over time effect is ticking obviously while I'm not engaged. That's when I try to use Nightblade, times when I know I'm not bursting with my Thief's Bargain from Shadow Dance. All of your Eviscerates should be pumped into your target, while you have Shadow Dance up, and make sure that you have Symbols of Death up as well. So here I ended up using my Sprint to get away and vanish, which means that I can open up on the DK again and not have to worry about getting killed because I'll have Vanish again. He Icebounds out of my stun and I apply Nightblade, but he catches me with a stun and it looks like it's over for me. But luckily I'm able to use my Vanish and get away. My Crimson Vial is just coming off cooldown, so I pop it and I keep entering stealth so that I'm able to get that small little shield. The damage over time effect is ticking on me, so I really need to be careful. So I enter stealth and I instantaneously get knocked, and I backstab him instead of sapping, but I'm able to Shadow Dance and cheap shot him quick enough and score the victory. Alright, that was a lot of information to digest. Let's go ahead and highlight some key points to drive home. So, we've already talked about having 5-point eviscerates while chaining stuns in your opener, but something else you really need to focus on is maintaining Symbols of Death and making sure that you're DPSing into Thief's Bargain. Outside of that, you're really just trying to cycle through combo points with Eviscerates, Shadow Strike and Cheap Shot, put Nightblade on your target after you've done your main opening rotation, and try to utilize the short CD on Vanish to avoid damage. This leads us into part 3, a general overview of the spec. Now, right off the hop, I'd like to say that for competitive PvP, I think Assassination is significantly easier to play and, in general, more viable. Now, that's not to say that Subtlety isn't good, but if you were to play Subtlety, you'd want to run Phantom Assassin and have the longer Shadow Dance. The high uptime on Dance just gives you more control over the match. Now, I'm not saying that this spec isn't good or anything. It's definitely really fun to play in casual PvP like skirmishes or battlegrounds, which is why I emphasized at the beginning of the video that this is mostly for fun. Sometimes it's nice to just relax and do the casual stuff and try and enjoy the game. And speaking of enjoying things, I sincerely hope you have enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider taking a look at our Patreon. It'll be linked in the description below. And of course, liking the video does help quite a bit. So, until next time my friends, I'd like you all to stay sneaky, and most importantly, I'd like you all to have a great day. Take care.